So, when one walks in your gallery is the picture of faces and people. What is this obsession with people? Did you start photographing people, or did you start photographing still life? What was it that when you got your first cameras?
Well,
what was your?
That's a great question. Many years ago, in New Mexico, I had started shooting in D.C. And actually, I started shooting some of my first subject matter. I just remembering this now. Were homeless people.
Oh wow!
Because I was living downtown,
and
on Sundays I would go out and wander around early, and I would see them, starting their day, getting up, getting dressed, brushing their teeth, combing their hair, whatever. And so I had a number of interactions, which I'm just remembering I did that. But in New Mexico, I would fascinated and focused on landscape and adobe architecture.
There's this spiritual thing when you're there.
And the trees, it is.
It's in everything.
You may not know it, but
landscape.
That's true. So I used to focus on that. And then a few months before my trip to Senegal, West Africa in '95, one camera broke. So I was without it for a while. And I got it back.
You were naked for a while.
I got it back just in time to go this trip to Senegal, West Africa. And something happened in that process. When I went to Senegal, St. Africa, my focus turned to faces and hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on in 1995, I'm not known as one particular type of photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all over with my inspiration, but really drawn to people's faces. And it's an honor. And when you have the opportunity to sit in front of someone and talk to them and have them share their life or their story, it's an intimate thing. And so having someone sit honestly and trusting you to capture them is an honor. And I thought, what better way, like in St. Augustine, to help tell the story is starting this series, 3 years ago or so, of porch portraits, where I get on their porches and talk about what life used to be like in Lincolnville in the 60s.
Right.
And most of them were or are longtime Lincolnville residents. Dr. King, stayed at Miss Janie's house, and he sat on that porch.
Yeah.
The same with Miss Tyson. He stayed there a couple of times. He loved her iced tea. But to sit there and talk to these, sit at their feet, which I try to do, and ask them about what was life like? What was the community life like?
Right.
What was the civil rights era like?
Yeah. I got to talk to some of them in the civil rights and how they talked about Martin Luther King as this regular guy.
Yes.
And I had to scold him because he did did put the point, and I'm like, because King wasn't the icon he became.
Right.
It's meeting the saint before he's a saint.
Yeah. He was on his way. Miss Tyson said that she got in his face because she said she didn't like this nonviolence.
Yes. You're gonna get us in trouble.
But the importance of and it's even being here a mere 8 years, the community has changed a great deal. So it's disappearing as it once was. So I just want to get on in front of many people as I can.
So you were, rumor has it you were up in Hastings photographing some people up there. What was that all about?
To talk to them and do a similar thing as the porch portraits, to get them in front of their homes or on their porches or in their front yards and ask them about their lives and to photograph them and to tell their story. And what came of it, the project is on pause at the moment, but beginning that project really stirred something in me. It was like my work in Lincolnville, which is unfinished, but my work in Lincolnville was training to go do this work in.
Little did you know.
In Hastings, yeah, and I see now how I'm being led, and because of doing some of that initial work in Hastings, and getting a call from a professor at University of Florida, I wanted to do something similar in this African American community of Northport, St. Joe, near the Panhandle. Another small African American community. There's kind of disappearing,
Disappearing.
and literally disappearing, because some of the houses are sinking into
Wow.
this toxic
Dumb.
dump.
Mhm.
And to get their stories and to find out how their lives are and what happened in their community and what's happening now. And then recently, last week, I heard of another community outside of the villages called Royal. Same, African American community, small, that's being disenfranchised. There's fighting gentrification, fighting environmental issues, I have, for a couple years now, have thought about transitioning out of a day-to-day space, which I've done for 28 years, and working on projects. And I didn't know what kind of projects at the time, but now, my heart is like opened up to just trying to help tell the stories, these people's stories or community stories, in an artistic way, in a way that may draw people in to hear about what life in these communities are like, and how these various communities, and maybe my project would be these communities in Florida.
Right.
I can't do a national thing.
Right.
About how they're disappearing.